Hey guys, welcome. Today we are moving away from React and we're going to start talking about a testing tool I ran across called TestProject. Our presentation today, we are going to it's going to be an overview of the TestProject application, what it is, what they do, and we're going to really look at a lot of the things that they've added since version 2.0 came out, which brought me back to this project because now it's something that is a little more polished, a little more production ready in the corporations. So this is going to be almost fully hands-on. So let me jump out. So the first thing is you need to go to TestProject.io, and that will bring up their main website here. And it is a free open source automation tool that you can use for a lot of different things. You can use it for web testing. You can use it for mobile testing. And what makes TestProject so unique is it's the first of its kind where it is 100% open sourced. It's a community powered test automation framework. It's 100% free. They do not charge for anything. And it is a full test automation development framework designed for agile teams. It also comes with advanced built-in recording capabilities, which we'll look at today. It also comes with an AI-powered self-healing technology built in. So like if your tests break or if you have some loading issues, it kind of can tweak and self-heal itself. It also seamlessly supports iframes, pop-ups, dynamic elements, modals, all those nasty things that bite us with Selenium or that you have to kind of write your own solutions around. It also comes in with a built-in adaptive weight technology. So if you remember some of my discussions about the test framework, I had to create some custom weight features in order for us to handle the different dynamic weights, explicit, implicit weights within Selenium. So they have this built in. We'll take a look at that. It's kind of cool. It also supports hybrid cloud, and it also now supports completely offline modes, which is brand new with version 2.0. Prior to version 2.0, it was completely cloud-based, which was great, unless you're dealing with a proprietary company or with a company where everything is stored offline or in an offline capacity where it's behind a firewall. It also supports a command line agent, which is really cool. We won't get into that too much today, but we'll talk about that in a future class where you can actually export your tests and run them from the command line. You can also run them through Jenkins, Hudson, or Bamboo, any of your offline continuous integration frameworks. And their goal is to keep this free forever to anyone. All you have to do to get started, you can either enter in an email and create an account through them, or you can use your existing Google or Microsoft accounts. Before I log in, though, let's just quickly go through their website to highlight some of the key places you might want to check out. So first and foremost, Test Automation Without Limits. Again, it's originally started out as a cloud-based testing tool, but now they've also given you an offline feature, which is very cool with version 2.0. You can basically record your tests real time, and then you can export them to rerun them locally. They also integrate with things like browser stacks, Sauce Labs. They have some other executions where you can deploy them through Hudson, Bamboo. They have really nice debugging and reporting, so you can really see what's failing and how things are working. Again, it works seamlessly online and offline. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, while they have some navigation here at the top, the bulk of the navigation of their website is at the bottom of the site. This is where you can quickly find access to anything that you need. One of the cool things here is, here's a quick list of everything that their test solution covers. It will handle web testing, Android, iOS testing, Selenium testing, and Appium testing. Now, the cool thing here, though, is iOS testing. If you go to the little blurb here, it works even on Windows. So if you are testing a native iOS application, you can debug it from a Windows application. So you're no longer tied to a Macintosh in order to do testing of iOS devices. So that was really cool. Some other things under platform, you have quick links to the mobile test recorder, the web test recorder, team collaboration. This is really cool. So not only can you build your test cases for your test groups. You can also share these tests across the organization. So you can send them to the business, you can send them to developers, and they can run these tests at will and also have access to all the tools that you have access to. Again, is a fully open source framework, which is really cool. So if we wanted to contribute, we could fix a bug, contribute, or add a new feature. It is BDD testing ready, so you can do behavior driven development. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it does support it. So for readability for business, this is one approach you can take. It's also cross-platform testing, so you can test across multiple browsers, you can test headless, you can also push this out to Docker and run across a grid-like framework. It also has command line and continuous integration pipelines, remote execution, and a bunch of add-ons, which I'll briefly cover, but I'm not going to get into specifics to that. And proven testing solutions, so it works with web testing, Android testing, iOS, Selenium, and Appium. The documentation, the key thing here I would recommend if you're going to check this out, definitely start with creating an account, go through installation and setup. This walks you through how to install the agent, what you might need to do to set security settings so that the agent will actually run on your device, and some other things like, quick getting started and getting started with iOS testing. So we're actually going to jump in and get our hands dirty right off the get-go, so we're not going to worry too much about that. But if you want to come back later and check this out, this is how you can do it. Just go under Documents. They also have some blogs. These are really cool. They talk about Selenium 4, some other things in the community, behavior-driven development. They've got a lot of interesting articles out here. Check some of those out if you have time. They also have an online forum, so you can ask questions, look and see what issues people are having, see if anything relates to what you're doing. Full online support, really good community. You can also search their site. It's really cool. And then you can also kind of look for different things within the site, key shortcuts, frequently asked questions, and so on. Okay, so from the test.io page, we go up to login here. So it's going to log me in. Now, I've already installed the agent, but in order for the test to work, or the test recorder piece to work, you have to actually run the agent. So right now it's not running, so let me kick that off while I talk about the dashboard. So when you log into TestProject for the very first time, you're going to see this little interface here. And we have things like project, monitor, add-ons, reports, agents, and integration. You also have this new test feature for recording new tests. And you also have open file if you want to import tests from your local file system. This little icon here indicates if you have an agent running. And you can have multiple agents running if you wish. So you could have multiple workers if you want to try to run multi-threaded. You can also invite people to your project, so you can build your project team. I have not seen a limitation on this. And again, this is all free. So this is something maybe as a group we might want to play around with. It also comes, once you first log in for the first time, it comes with a pre-built test case. So the first thing they recommend you do is once you log in, just run this guy, see how it works. So we'll click run. Oh, okay, so to run my test, I have to pick an agent. So since I only have the one agent right now, my first agent, I can select that. I can do web testing or mobile testing. Now, we're not going to focus on mobile today. I'll cover that in the future. So when you select web, it gives you all the different browsers that are currently installed on your machine. So what can the agent work with? So I have Chrome, I have Edge, I have Firefox, and I have Safari. Now, just a little note, Safari, given the last iOS major update for Mojave, this, depending upon your security settings, may not work. So you may have to reduce your security settings of Safari in order to actually run Safari tests. Since most of the world is Windows-based or Linux-based, Safari is just Mac. So most of the other browsers here are where you're going to focus your time. So we'll do Chrome, and then I will hit Next. So it says override default input parameters or use source data. I don't have a data file yet, so we'll override the default inputs. And what this does is it looks at the test and it says, oh, you have these 3 input fields. What is the data that you want to enter from them? So we have the password 123, John Doe, and the start URL for the test, which is going to be examples.testproject.io web. Then you click run. And while it's running, you can hit show monitor and it will show you all your agents that are running. So it's and it gives you the status. So it's preparing the test. Now, since I ran it in the head mode, it actually opened up the browser. It's walking through, it's populating the values. And it just walked through and it populated the test page. Test finished, we have 100%. So as soon as it's done tearing down, this agent will shut down. So now it's gone. So now if I go back over to projects, so here's my project. I can go here where you see this little graph icon, and I can click that, and it takes us to the reports for this run. So this test ran, it took 27 seconds. We started it on November 13th. The agent we used was an Apple agent, my first agent. So if you actually had multiple machines with multiple agents, you could run these across like Apple, Windows, Linux. If you had Docker set up, you could point it to different Docker. And on your Docker, if you install the agents on each of your Docker instances, you can point to those instances. It shows you the steps that ran and the steps that passed. So if anything failed, you would see a failure. And then you can look at the historical runs of this. So I ran this 2 days ago, 7 days ago, and you can kind of look at the different history of each. For instance, I tried to run Doctor Who earlier this morning and it failed. So if you look, it says, hey, we had 100% passing on Chrome, but Safari, it did not run. The agent failed because of the security settings. See, test no longer exists, so I can't actually debug into the test, but you could walk into the tests. You can look at the summary report, which you can export. And these are really cool because you can look at the summary report. It's very clean, has all the information that you need. And then you can provide this summary to the business or to the developers or business managers, project managers. Basically say, okay, here is the results of our test run. If you're trying to do some additional debugging or you needed to go into further detail for development, they can look at the full report, which not only gives it the summary, but it also gives you the execution details as well. So here's the full details. Here's all the steps that ran. Here's the results and the detail. So here we see Safari did not run. It errored out. The agent failed to kick it off. One thing you have to be careful of is make sure you do not close your test project tab, because then you have to kind of re-log in and start over. Just quick overview of the menu here. So we have our test jobs. These are all the tests that we've recorded or we've scripted. If you're working in an offline state, you can click the 3 dots here and you can actually save your test as a file. And if we were to just save it without, you can export it as a package, but we'll just save it as a file. What's interesting about this is it will save it as a YAML file. And if we look at the YAML file, we see that, okay, here's all that information that we see at the top of our summary report. The project name, who created it, when it was created. But then you have the different steps. So your first step here, ID, my first test. Then in here you have your settings, the application, again, step, the action you want to take, the parameter mappings. So it's kind of like a JSON file of sorts, except it's just a YAML file. But it contains all the information you can configure from this file, including data that you can then save and then run through their command line interface, or export this to Jenkins, Hudson, or whatever, and then run this test offline. So it's kind of cool that we can do that.